I'm John Strohmeyer, and this is the 5-Star Counsel Podcast. The market for legal services is shifting, and lawyers who don't adapt will be left behind. This podcast gives you a competitive edge in today's market by sharing the client service lessons you probably didn't learn in law school or in law practice. Let's start the show. Hey 5-Star listeners, before we start, I want to tell you about our amazing sponsor, Smith AI. Smith AI is a virtual receptionist service for small businesses with a specialty in working with solo and small law firms. I signed up with them within weeks of starting my firm because they are affordable for even the smallest solo practice. Their friendly receptionists respond to potential clients in Spanish or English, screen and schedule new leads, and can even take payments. And now they're answering calls 24 hours a day. So even when you're asleep, they're still working. Even beyond the phone, they've got live agents and chatbots ready to capture leads on your website, by text, and by Facebook Messenger. Smith's friendly gatekeepers can staff your front line so you can work uninterrupted. You can finally have the peace of mind that while you're working, you're not missing out on future work. Plans start at just $70 a month for calls and $100 a month for chats. Smith AI is offering a free trial, and our podcast listeners get an extra $100 discount code with promo code 5STAR. That's FIVESTAR. Sign up and learn more at www.smith.ai. Don't let another day go by. Try Smith AI.
Welcome back to another episode of the 5-Star Counsel Podcast. We are back again with an episode of the 5-Star Q&A, where we've asked you, dear listener, to send in your client service questions for John, and we intend to give you some answers. John, are you ready?
Let's begin.
Okay, great. First question. How do you respond to clients who want to go to the front of the line and skip your normal intake process?
So this comes up a lot. Clients come to us because they want to move the needle on a problem they have in their life, and a lot of times they can't see that, the problem for them is just so urgent and pressing. They can't see around, oh my gosh, why can't I go first? Other times they're going to say, well, I got referred in. You don't need to go through these procedures. Just connect me directly with the lawyer. The problem with this is once we start building up our systems, and if we're really the expert in the matter, going back to what we've talked about with Mike Whalen multiple times, we've got to set ourselves up as the expert in our field who is a bit removed from everyone. If there's ready access to us, it undermines our value as the expert. So we want to have procedures and a process in place to make sure that we can take care of people. We want to make sure that we're delivering consistently for all of our clients. What this means is we're looking at a way of saying, well, hey, this is how we do things. And if you upset the process, we understand you want to move faster, but ultimately you're going to have a slower process and it's going to get bogged down. And if you try and cut the line, the line isn't just there for John's. We don't have a line or a queue in place just to feed my ego. The reason we do this is to make sure that we've checked off the steps to make sure you're a good fit. Is it worth everybody's time for you to jump straight to the head of the line, to jump past everybody, if ultimately I'm going to refer you out? No, we want to make sure that people get the right help. So thinking about it in a way of, we are doing this so that you can get the best service and you can get your best result. This requires that you have some sort of process and that you have people who are there to answer the phones, check emails, schedule calls. Maybe you're using some automations like Calendly, where you're asking questions before that first call so that you can look at what's coming up and say, this person has these red flags or even these yellow flags that aren't good for us. So 2 things to think about. Having processes and procedures in place to know this is what the steps are before you get to talk to the lawyer. They're not cutting the line if everybody's just kind of meandering around in a blob. But if you have an actual line, then you can say, the rule is this. We have the firm policy to ensure that people go through the steps this way. The other side of it is having the standards to know this is what we do and this is why we do it, so that you can push that down, delegate it down to your staff so that they can make effective decisions in dealing with people and get them to the right place and get them to you faster so that your conversations and your work with them is more productive.
Yeah, that all makes sense. What about big high dollar clients, John? How willing are you to bend?
It's hard to not say, hey, we're not going to do this, or we're not going to just drop everything. You've got to realize, and this is something where every firm's going to be different, because you want to game this out before somebody shows up. If you're a criminal defense attorney, somebody comes, if you're normally dealing with traffic tickets and somebody shows up with murder one, are you even qualified to take it? I mean, I'm not saying you're not, but you should have gamed out what happens and what it looks like. I'm not going to be able to tell you what that looks like in that practice because I have no idea, and I don't have the right words to even describe what to start looking for. In our practice, for when people come in, and we've had this in the last few weeks where somebody came in, high dollar client, they're going through the normal process. We're not dropping the ball for them. We're paying attention to them and also kind of taking a look at it. Is there anything else we can do for them? What may also be easier for them? So there's some kind of flexibility, but in a lot of cases, it's offering the flexibility we already had just to make sure they know. Ultimately, this is something you want to not just limit to the high-end clients. It's the people who are the high-end clients. Maybe that you're using that as the proving ground to develop better procedures and systems that you can apply across the board.
This next question we've got kind of turns the table a little bit. How do you respond when you've screwed up?
So I know every lawyer here is petrified about doing anything wrong ever. The reality is we are all going to make mistakes of various calibers. It's true for all of us. At a first cut, thinking and acknowledging that you are going to make a mistake at some point is the start. You're gonna go from there to say, well, what kind of mistakes are likely to happen? Is it we're slow on delivering documents? Is it we missed a deadline? You've got to think about what are the reasonable things most likely for you to miss. What you're trying to do is game out, well, if this happens, how are we going to respond? What could possibly happen? We missed this deadline. The court said, hey, you're late on this. What do we do? Whoops. Figure it out, get it done. How are you going to communicate with a client? What happens if you haven't touched base with a client? Once you figured out how you could possibly drop the ball and how you were, that's the key to knowing, well, you don't want to walk into this situation for the first time, because if you've thought through it, at least you'll have some ideas on how you may respond. Going from there, yes, there are some magic words. What the magic phrase I learned at the hotel was saying something. Look, when something goes wrong, the thing to start with was, I'm very sorry this happened. Unfortunately, nothing I say is going to undo what has happened. So, how can we fix this? And the key is, you will probably have to just withstand some, the client. You're probably going to have to deal with the client just venting at you for a minute about whatever frustration. This is something that, I know I've even had this happen to me. I had a flight from Mexico City back to Houston a few years ago on Southwest. And I was on Twitter just kind of yelling about why aren't we taking off? It's been an hour late. The folks on Twitter were like, well, we don't have a plane there. I was like, I can look out the window and see the plane is there. They were doing a lot of damage because somebody at corporate Southwest was responding and saying, oh, we don't know what's going on. It's like, nobody does. This is the problem. The key was, but at the end of it, they offered me like some $100 gift card or whatever. And ultimately, they weren't even listening to me. This was the big problem. They were not listening to me. They didn't really care. They were just, it was a minor thing, but the plane was delayed. They made the matter worse by pretty much lying to me about the status. The key was just, if you'd just let me vent for a minute to somebody, to an actual human and not just on Twitter, I would have been totally fine. not taking that and kind of realizing that, like, I didn't want a gift card. I wanted it to be fixed. And more than anything, like, I'd already taken the day off work. I wasn't really worried about getting back to the office that Monday morning. But I was worried about, like, are we ever leaving? Because I was sitting in the airport. So thinking through, all right, well, how do we kind of manage the process once it's happened, acknowledging things have happened. So allow them to vent for a minute and then figure out what is it you need to do to make it right. Most of the times, people are less concerned with some gift than just kind of exercising or, dumping the poison that's rattling around inside of them, because you certainly don't want them going online and blasting about you and your firm if you can just deal with it privately and figure out, look, this is what happened, this is how we're going to figure it out.
Solutions-based response.
Yes. Again, people don't really care about intentions so much as results. And as lawyers, we're hired for results. We're not hired for intentions. We're hired to move the needle on some problem for clients. So focus on that. We didn't get the needle moved. How can we still move the needle for you? That is what people want.
Okay, the next question. You mentioning Disney and Four Seasons makes sense when discovering service. Why do you include Amazon?
All right, so Amazon seems like a bit of a... Amazon seems like it's an outlier here. For a while, I included Zappos. I've taken them off only because, rule of three, it's easier to keep three things in my head. And it's worth going through what Zappos does as well. But we want to think about this because Amazon ultimately is like a law firm or a dentist or a barber. They're hired to do a thing. They're hired to move the needle. We've talked about physical product businesses, technical service businesses, and service businesses, how they're all a little different and they're focused on different things. Amazon is a logistics company primarily. They are not there to bring you happiness so much as bring you a thing. They are arranging for the delivery of an object from the manufacturer to wherever you want it to go. And they're focused on making it faster and easier to get that done. Yes, they have Amazon Prime, they have all their shows and all the rest. But focus on where they started and what they still primarily do. You pull out your phone and you want to get something to your house. They are arranging for delivery of a thing to you. They have more stuff than anybody else. So the thing that I want to tease out from why Amazon is important is they're focused on the logistical delivery of things to you and how they can shave off time, how they can make it faster and easier for you and for them. And that's what we want to bring. Like, how can we make this easy for everybody to get done? The things that we, the reason we don't want to just go all in on Amazon is they're always looking for those efficiencies. And sure, they're trying to do things, but they're so far over on how do we automate this? How do we kind of take all the slack out of the system that when things go wrong, you're kind of stuck. And we still want to keep the human element in this because people aren't just going to pull up their phone and order, one get out of jail card or one adoption, please. We're all human systems where we have our own unique circumstances. So we want to think about how do we bring that human touch so we can balance the automation, the efficiencies of the Amazon with the high touch service that we get from Disney and Four Seasons. And that's how we're going to be able to thrive in this coming, in the current market space.
All about that balance.
All about that balance.
Next question. Do you have any tips on creating internal training materials?
So what we are actually working on right now is an internal training course as a kind of, let's start for every current employee. We're taking what they know and making sure we've got that spread across every employee so that when new employees come in, it may be as much as the first week is spent on learning who we are and what we do. What do we stand for? Who are our clients? Everybody should be able to answer a certain set of questions. Things like, what does your business do? Everybody in your firm should be able to answer exactly what you do using the same verbiage. If you walk around your firm right now and ask 5 people what you do, will they give you the same answer? You know, it may be slightly different. If you've got a mid-sized firm, well, some people may work in bankruptcy and some people may work in corporate M&A. That's okay, but they should still have the same basic answer of what y'all do. Thinking about who the clients are and what sort of problems your firm solves for your clients. Like just thinking through what do we do and making sure everybody knows. You want to start with this basic stuff. Well, okay, once you've got that, it's going to dictate what your training materials look like because it'll help guide this is the sort of stuff we do. And so how do we make sure what happens? Now, when it comes to specific things, it's going to depend on who's using the process, who's dealing with. When it comes to creating actual training materials, you're going to have to look through who's doing this. Is this a lawyer or is this somebody who's just following a process and needs to do it 15 times a day? If it's something that's being done once a week, it's probably more guidelines and checkpoints to make sure you hit versus this is a procedure we're doing 5 times a day and here is a script for what needs to be done because there really isn't a lot of variance in it other than what people may say back to you. But the answers are mostly going to be within a certain bandwidth. So there are lots of options. We keep our training materials and our processes and procedures in Basecamp. There are sometimes videos, some videos of people walking through it. There will be screenshots. This is what it looks like. Example text. Here are the snippets you need to use in Text Expander to get the right text. It's going to depend on what's being done and who's doing it. Ultimately, the answer to what do the training materials look like is what's going to make sure that you get a consistent result.
Okay, next question. How often do you follow up with potential clients after an initial contact or call?
For my firm, we have generally 3 touches. Call it 3 strikes because that's easy to remember. Strike 1 is client will have an initial call with me. If they don't move forward there, that's strike 1. And that includes, hey, we're thinking about this. We're not sure yet. That's fine. You've talked to me once. It's totally okay for you to go and evaluate some other options. At the end of that call, if they say they're not moving forward just yet, or they've got to think about it, they're talking to other people, I'm making sure we have a deadline of when can we follow up. Not, would you mind if we follow up? Not, we hope to hear from you, but if we haven't heard from you by this day, we're going to check in and see where you are. Why? We're giving them certainty on we expect to follow up. We're going to follow up on that day to be sure. That second follow-up, strike 2, is coming from somebody else in the firm. They're doing that because I don't need to be involved in it at that point, just to check in and see, hey, we haven't heard from you. Are you moving forward? What needs to happen? After that, if they haven't said anything that says we're moving forward, then we're going with strike 3. Strike 3 is going to be, hey, doesn't look like you're moving forward. We're taking you off our radar. If you ever need to get back in touch, here's the link. You know how to get in touch with us. Again, the point is we're giving them the chance to move forward, and we're also being sure that we can close them out if they haven't heard from us or if we haven't heard from them. We want to know this is, who are the people that we need to pay attention to. If they're not interested, they're not going to be interested. A lot of us have to deal with clients who are just going to be focused on something else. We may have fallen off the radar. They may have hired somebody else. It happens. And so we want to make sure we know who to pay attention to and who we can let go because we weren't a good fit for them.
Yeah, I think there's often just a fear of letting go of, leaving money on the table, right? So that strike 3 email can be a little tough to send.
Right. It's this is something where you want to make sure you're getting the right people in. And different practices are going to have different senses of urgency from the clients. For estate planning, nobody ever thinks they're dying in the next 10 years unless they think they're dying in the next 2 or 3 months. It's hard to drag our clients through this process because they'll get distracted unless there's something pressing them to get this done. It is something that falls to the wayside. if you're getting sued or if you're facing jail time or if you're in a terrible marriage, it may be harder. The issues are more clear and present, and so you're motivated to get through them. Different practices are going to have to deal with this in a different way, which, sorry, I don't have a better example, but this is why people ask questions.
Okay, John, so next question. How rigid or flexible do I need to be with clients who ask for payment plans?
So this is something where your own financial planning and how your firm works will dictate way more than I could ever come up with right now. So I'm going to go with the lawyerly answer of it depends. And at the same time, you do want to make sure that you're getting people in, understanding that people are going to have their differences and people are going to need you to recognize where they are, depending on the sort of problems you solve. One of the ways I look at it is I don't really offer payment plans, but I do take credit cards, which allows the banks to dictate and kind of negotiate on terms. Look, I am not a good evaluator of credit. I'm also not a good evaluator of investment opportunities. It's not in my best interest to go jump into that business. And so I usually leave it to please pay up front, because that solves the problem of I know what I'm getting paid up front, and we can back off and we can offer some terms to people. And it's usually in the we'll take a chunk up front and we will need to, for certain probate matters, we're not going to proceed beyond, we're not even going to schedule the initial hearing until we get full payment, just so that we know we've got funds in the bank to get everything done. Your practice and your situation will obviously be different than mine. So the point of this is you're trying to make things easier for you, your staff, and your clients. If you can make it so everybody wins with payment plans, make it so everybody wins with payment plans. If you can't do that and keep the doors open, don't do that. And without, I'd love to give somebody kind of work through with this. What do these payment plans look like? But without more context than should we do it? Well, maybe, sure. If somebody wants to come on for another coaching call, let me know. We can talk through what it looks like in your firm.
Great. Okay, next question. What are the top 3 things a new attorney should have figured out before starting solo?
So this is where we get a little out of the service realm and we start pulling all the way back. The first 3 things you want to have are your mission, your vision, and your values lined out. Why? Because this is going to guide just about everything you're going to do in your firm. So mission, what is it that your firm does? How do you help clients move the needle? You've got to be specific on this. Obviously, somebody who's just starting out, you may be a little bit more broad. Here at Strohmeyer Law, our mission is to guide clients through the maze of tax, estate planning, and probate to help them leave no unfinished business. Everything's geared around that mission. The vision, well, I want a team of, a small team, probably 10 to 20 people when we get as big as I would imagine. I'm looking for a team of 10 to 20 people who are gracious professionals who are able to guide clients through the maze of estate planning, probate, and tax law to help them leave no unfinished business. The vision that I have as the owner, and then finally values, the things that guide and kind of categorize how we're going to behave, how we can tie everything back to when we do things right. Here's the value that we are supporting. When we take a misstep, this is the value that we missed. Being able to, just provide that cohesive gel so that when we're looking for new people, we can evaluate them based on our own values. Otherwise, they're going to show up. They're going to have the values that are theirs, which may not align. When they don't align, we're going to have problems because people are acting in what they think is the right way, but it really doesn't work for us. So those are the first 3 things, and it does get to, the type of practice you're going to have and how you're going to behave. A lot of things then come from there. How you are going to set up your practice comes from having those first 3 things down. And for the people who are saying, you haven't talked about business. Yeah, I did. It's in there that the mission and the vision really get into this is what your practice is and how you're going to determine it. And a lot of things then come out from the choices you're going to make in crafting those statements and then updating them over time as business develops and you see what actually worked.
Yep, I love it. That's truly the foundation of a good business and a good firm. Okay, last one. Save the cheekiest one for last. This is clearly somebody who has seen your videos on the firm website or YouTube. They ask, what's up with all the Legos?
What is up with all the Legos? Please, first, Lego is not plural. Lego is a company name. What is up with all the Bobbies? No, there's just one Bobby.
Come on. Let's not be pedantic here.
Technically correct is the best sort of correct, Bobby. So, as most American kids did, or at least most American boys of a certain age, I played with a lot of Lego growing up. As pandemic got started, I was stuck at home and browsing around on Amazon. I was like, oh, look, this ship in a bottle. That hits a couple different areas of my brain. The, pirate ships and things like that I like, plus Lego, which I haven't done in forever. Plus, I'm not going anywhere, so let's do this. And, well, here we are now. If you're really bored, you can go find my Adult Fan of Lego channel on YouTube, where I've got 2 or 3 videos up at this point. And, just having fun. It's a hobby where I can do inside, sitting at the table, doing something else, watching TV, and just enjoy being creative and also fidgeting with things, as I am right now with this Lego minifigure.
Yep. I love doing them with my son. Yep. My kiddo is really into it, and having been to your house recently, John, and seeing your collection, it's impressive. There's more than you could even see on these videos. So, well, thanks for all the answers here, John. We will be back again in 10 episodes or so with more Q&As. Always, you can reach us on social media or via email, john@fivestarcouncil.com with your questions, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. You can find more info on us and get your free white paper on client service at fivestarcouncil.com. You can get in touch with me at john@fivestarcouncil.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe wherever fine podcasts are found and leave us a review wherever you can.